it recording?
Yep.
Oh, oi oi, and welcome to the Dritz Dresden channel. We are here to review
Well, first of
Tucker
all,
versus Eel. Oh yeah, I'm Skeeter, that's Derp Derp. Like and subscribe and all that crap. Um, Maybe we should do the announcements like at the beginning.
yeah.
You know, like hey, we have Pokemon D&D on Wednesday.
And besides joining us today, join us Thursday for One Piece. That's all that I know that we have planned.
Yeah, Thursday for One Piece.
Last
We're watching it blind. I have never seen it before, and we're reviewing it because we got 10,000 subscribers. So I hate all you.
and that's all we really have scheduled for this week. Other than possibly One Piece might be streaming on Twitch instead. Possibly if I have that set up by then. My videos will still be uploaded to YouTube. Yeah, OBS is yeah, OBS has been it's usual, so the stream might go in and out, but the recording won't.
Okay.
Uh,
All right. Well, let's get into it.
First off, let's go through the cast. We have Dell Dobson, played by Tyler Labine. Tucker McGee, played by the star of the show, Alan Tudyk.
Yep. These are the Tucker and Dale characters of the Tucker and Dale versus Evil in the title.
Then we have Allison, played by Katrina Bowden. Chad, played by Jesse Moss. Chloe, played by Chilean Simmons. Sheriff Gurr, played by Philip Granger. Jason, played by Brandon J. McCarran. And Naomi, played by Christy Lane. And then Tucker Dale also has a dog named Jangers.
Oh yeah. All right. So this movie,
Every other one is kind of.
yep,
And then Mike
they're not
played by.
they're not like main cast
Yeah.
characters, so we don't need to really talk about them because they're just in there for like 2 seconds, or they're just there and they don't say anything. Um, well, anyways, it starts off with kids in a fraternity going. They're all college kids going on vacation to this wooded area in the hills of Appalachia, and there we meet Tucker and Dale, who are going on. They just bought a Tucker just bought or no, yeah, Tucker just bought a new vacation home, and it's kind of run down, and it's their first time there, and Dale sees the college kids and he's like, "Oh man, I want to talk to that girl. I don't know how to do it." And Tucker's like, "You need to talk to that girl right now." And Dale's like, "Okay." So
The
he talks.
first half, there's also an altercation in the car where they're backing up and they almost run into each other. And then they pull up beside each other as driving and they just give death glares at them, at the teens.
Yep, because they don't know what they're looking at. They're like, "Oh, these teens are weird." But there's a lot of like misconceptions because the teenagers have seen way too many horror movies, and they're like, "Oh no, we're here in the woods. These hillbillies are here to kill us. Oh man!" And they're even more scared when Chad tells them a story about how 20 years ago there was a massacre about a bunch of hillbillies killing a bunch of college kids, and he was like, "It's 20 years today." And scares everyone, and now everyone thinks that the hillbillies are trying to get them, and so the movie is basically the college kids misinterpreting what they see. So they decided to go skinny dipping.
And the hillbillies just trying to save them.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's kind of a metaphor for
Don't judge a book by its cover.
yeah, but it's also a metaphor for like the world, like how wars start, and because Allison, we she mentions later that she's going to school for psychology and she believes that wars and conflict is caused by miscommunication, and that is exactly what this entire movie is about. It is entirely miscommunication between these two parties, and what one sees is, you could see, oh look, my friend died. Oh wait, he actually killed himself accidentally. It wasn't anyone's fault. It's just a misinterpreting and an escalation thing, and that's how wars start in real life too. You see something happen, but you don't know the whole story, but it's something so brutal that you believe it, and you can throw in propaganda and warmongering and stuff like that, and how people can be duped easily. It's good to ask questions and be like, hey, why are we fighting this war? You know, like World War I started. Like some guy was assassinated, and all of a sudden, you know, Russia and Germany are involved, and then you have France and Great Britain, and then the United States, and they're all killing each other, and for what? For nothing. Anyways, um, that's kind of the basis of this entire movie is that psychological thing, but and misinterpreting and miscommunication. But anyways, so we have this Chad guy, and he's like, oh my God, these hillbillies are trying to kill us. We gotta watch out. We gotta be careful in these woods. And so they decide to go skinny dipping. And we get this like really weird scene between Chad and Allison. How Chad is like drunk and he's like coming on to Allison. He's like, "We're better than everyone else. We're just like on a different level. We should be together." And he like tries to kiss her, and she's like, "No, go away." So they all skinny dip, and they're skinny dipping wrong because they still have clothes on. But Allison is on a rock, and she's taking off her clothes slowly. And this is where we see Dale and Tucker. They're fishing in a boat, and Tucker is trying to be a peeping tom, and Dale's like, oh, Tucker, no, don't. And she's like, oh my God, falls in the water, hits her head, and this is the first thing of miscommunication where they're like, oh crap, she's not coming up. So the hillbillies in their boat go to take her over, and as they're pulling her in the boat, the college kids see that and they're like, oh my God, those hillbillies knocked her out and they're taking her away. And they're like, hey, we got your friend. The hillbillies are like, hey, we got your friend. They're like, oh my God, they took her. And they start running away.
Well, they're just trying to say,
saying,
come grab her.
Yeah, so instead of saying thank you, they just ran away like idiots. And so this gives Chad the A-OK, be like, oh my God, they took Allison, they probably killed her. We need to get revenge. So one of the kids, who's the smartest one,
decides to go to get help.
Yes, he leaves and to get the cops, while the super teenager, instead of just standing there, they're like, oh, let's do so. It's Chad who's like, yeah, we gotta attack them. We gotta save our friends. We don't need the cops. We can do it ourselves. Uh, Mentality. And Allison wakes up and she's immediately frightened because of the story that Chad made of these hillbillies are trying to kill them. He's Dale is bringing her breakfast. Pancakes. And she's like, oh, no, no. He's like, oh, my God, you don't like pancakes, do you? I'll make you something else. Brings her bacon and eggs, and then she realizes, like, these guys aren't bad. Um, and she gets to know them better. And, they're working on this farm, and they're like, oh, yeah, we'll bring you back. And they tell her, that she fell into the water and she got knocked out. Yeah. And, so then they're out working, and while Dale and Allison are playing a board game, Tucker's out there. He saws into a log.
Yep.
And there's a hornet's nest or a bee's nest in there. And he has his chainsaw, and he's like, oh my God, ah. And right as the group of teenagers is coming to the house to try to find Allison, he's like running away with the with the bees chasing him, and he's going all crazy, and all the teenagers just run away. And at one point, one of the teenagers is like looking at him, and you can tell he's just like, oh, this guy is being stung by bees. And of course, he runs to a branch, and he dies. It skewers
A
him.
giant branch. It's not just a small, tiny branch.
Yeah, it's like a tree that falls over, and one of the roots is protruding out, and he runs right into it. Because when
And
you're
through
running,
it.
you gotta look where you're going. Yeah, he runs right through it. He's dead in a matter of 30 seconds, and realizes, oh, these guys weren't trying to kill us. That's how I interpreted it. But if you guys interpreted it differently, leave a like in the comments if you're listening or not. I don't really care. Um, but oh, we got a person watching. All right,
That's just the first of many stupid deaths.
Yes, first of many stupid deaths. So the teenagers, of course, take this as, oh my God, they killed our friend. Oh, jeez. Oh, and they're hiding. When Tucker come out, they're like, oh man, we gotta find these kids, and they're like, hey, college kids, we have your friend, we have your friend, and he leaves a message with an axe, like, we have your friend with a UR. We have her. She's safe now. You can come get her, please. And so then they're just like kind of working, and they decide. Chad riles up everyone and says, "We need to attack these hillbillies and save Allison." Oh my God! So they make makeshift weapons. They make some spears or whatever, and you have, I think Allison and Dale have a nice conversation. They're digging a latrine pit or shitter pit for the shitter house, and she's like, "Oh, I used to work on a farm, so I can do this." And so the kids come up and spy on them. They're like, "Oh my God, they're making her dig her own grave," and which is not the case. There's a miscommunication, and so this is where
And
they,
Tucker is
and then they're like, "Okay,
currently doing a working a wood chipper.
yep, he's just putting wood into a wood chipper," and the teenagers split up and decide to attack them. And so you have one kid with this makeshift spear. He's like, "Oh," and he's attacking Dale, and Allison is there, and Dale has a shovel in his hand, turns to see the guy, accidentally knocks Allison out, and then this guy falls back, and then this kid
tries to pole vault.
Yeah, he skewers himself with his own spear. And then there's another kid.
Best death of the movie.
Yeah, another kid. He has a knife, and he sees Tucker, and Tucker's just just doesn't notice him, doesn't work the wood chipper, and he just dives at him, but he moves at the last second, so he dives headfirst into the wood chipper. Tucker turns around like, what is happening? Like, he just threw himself in there.
This brings him to the realization that these teenagers are a suicide cult.
Yeah, they're a suicide cult. They're killing themselves. I don't know what's with them. And and then Allison gets knocked out again. But when she wakes up, they're like, "Hey, are your friends off their medication?" And she's like, "What?" Yeah, because I think they're in a suicide cult. They're killing themselves. And she's like, "No, that doesn't make any sense. Why would they do that?" And then the sheriff comes. The kid with the car comes back with the sheriff, and it's like right after the scene where the wood chipper and stuff like that. They're running. They're like, "Oh my God, they're trying to kill us," and they're not. But they come. The sheriff, and meanwhile, Tucker and Dale are like, Dale's like, "We need to call the cops," and Tucker's like, "Do you think the cops are going to believe the story that these children just killed themselves on our property? No, we got to get rid of these bodies." And of course, they're getting rid of the wood chipper body, and that's when the sheriff comes, and they're like, "Oh, hi," and they tell that exact story that they said wasn't going to work, and the sheriff is like, "Yeah, I don't believe you." So like, "Oh, yeah, let's go inside." So they go inside, and he checks the girl, and she's still unconscious at the time, and he's like, "Oh yeah, no problem.
Not brain dead."
Yeah, not brain dead, just knocked out. All right, everything's good." And in this house, it's all run down. I forgot to mention that one of the
Beams.
beams
Yep.
is broken, so don't lean on it. And so, of course, the sheriff goes and leans on it, and a nail board hits him right on the head. And he walks outside to his car. He tries to do the radio, but he can't at the last second. So the driver kid, he sees the cop on the ground. He's like, "Oh, these, oh, they're," and all the kids are like, "Oh my God, they just killed the sheriff." Of course, another misinterpretation of
The
everything.
sheriff is apparently part of the suicide cult.
Yeah, and they think they killed the wood chipper kid and the latrine pit kid. They think they were
And the
killed,
tree impaled guy.
and the tree impale guy. They think they're all killed by these two rednecks or hillbillies. And so this kid comes out, he pulls out the gun, and he's like, "Ah, you bastards!" And he tries shooting him. And then Dale is like, "Hey, you got to move that safety on the side there." And so the kid is looking to fix the safety, and he shoots himself in the head. And everybody in the car is just freaking out even more, like, "Oh my God, what is happening?" Ah! And so all of them run away, and now they have another plan to their next plan is to they steal the dog. What's the name? Jangles.
Yep.
Jangles.
Jangers.
Oh, Jangers. They steal Jangers the dog, who is a described as a marshmallow. He looks mean, but he's a marshmallow. You can pet him on the nose, kind of thing. And so Chad, of course, kidnaps the dog, and he's like, "If you don't come out here, we're gonna kill your dog." And they're like, "Oh no." They're like, "Oh, you better not kill our dog." And so they have a nail gun inside, and so Dale gets on the nail gun as a distraction while Tucker sneaks around with his one little branch. He rolled a 20 on his sneak, by the way. He has a one little tiny little branch, and he's like running through the woods so no one can see him. Meanwhile, the kids in the car are being nail gunned. Nobody gets hurt, but it's just a distraction. And Tucker releases the dog, but he gets captured by Chad. He kind of runs away a little bit, and he gets punched, and he wakes up tied up and upside down. And Chad kind of talks to him. He's just like, "You did this. You did this." He's like, "Oh, guys, I don't know why you're in this death cult, but I got a case of beers. We can have some together. And we can make this all go away." He's like, "No." So we get another message from Dale and Allison. Dale and Allison get another message um, of a package, and they're like, "Ah." So they throw this package. Allison walks out, and she opens this package, and it's Dale's bowling fingers. He's like, "No, your bowling fingers, no!" And it says, now we have your friend. Come and get him." And it's a trap, of course, to try to get the two hillbillies. But uh, Dale is able to avoid the trap somehow. Actually, there's a stick that goes right between his legs. Very scary, and he's like, "Oh, I'm glad I'm not hung like a bear." Lets him down, and he's like, "Oh my God, they stole my fingers." Blah blah blah. And so after that, how do the other kids die again?
Then they go. Then it's
Oh, that's
night.
right. They
They
invade the
they go
house.
back. The teenagers go back to the house.
While the this so when Dale is rescuing Tucker, that's when they go to the house
Yep.
and try to save Allison. And they're like talking to her. They're like, "Hey, how's it going?" They're like, "Oh, good. And hey, how's it going?" She's like, "Oh yeah, these hillbillies are not bad." And then one of them is like, "He's like, oh, I heard about this in my psychology class or in my sociology class. It's called Stockholm syndrome. It's where you side with your captors." And she's like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And so now Chad is like, "Oh my God, you sided with the hillbillies? You're in love with them?" She's like, "What? No." But she does like Dale because he was nice to her. And so Chad goes batshit crazy, and he's like, "Now I know you're a hillbilly. Oh, I'm gonna have to kill you now." Like what's happening? So the hillbillies come back, and they're like, "Hey, let the girl go." And um, we have one of the chicks, or there's two people outside, the dumb
The
girl
black guy and the
and the dumb girl,
and
and
the
then inside it's
bimbo.
Chad and the darker
Yep.
skinned girl. I don't know, the brunette. Um, and they're in there like, oh my god, blah blah blah. And these two guys from an outside, they're talking, and actually Allison is working her psychology magic, and she gets Chad and Dale to sit down at a table and to drink tea together. Where we learn Chad can't have chamomile tea because of his asthma. He has an inhaler and stuff. And Dale is like loves Earl Grey. So she's like, oh, it's Earl Grey. It's like, oh, he's like, oh, this is great. I love Earl Grey. So they sit down and they're each told to tell their story. Chad tells his story, and you think it would be about what had happened in the movie so far, but no, he's like, it goes back to before I was born. And Allison's like, no, no, not that far back. He's like, no, this is important. She's like, all right, fine, whatever. So he tells a story about the massacre, and about his mom escaped the massacre, and but his dad, they weren't able to find his dad's body, and his mom was in a psychiatric ward for all his life, basically. So he
and
hates hillbillies.
and that his mom was pregnant at this time with him.
Yeah, yeah. So that's important, and that's how he was born. And he grew up very messed up, and probably in a foster home or something. And so that's his story.
I
And
grew up with grandparents.
oh, grandparents, okay. And Dale tells his story of like, oh yeah, we were just fishing, and we she hit her head, and we had to rescue her. And yeah, that was pretty much what happened. And then we got attacked. And she's like, okay, that's your truth. All right, now come together. And then as they're coming together, the black guy and the stupid blonde chick outside attack, and the black guy takes a weed whacker and charges at Tucker. He's like, die! So Tucker gets out of the way, and then the brunette is in
The
there.
black girl.
Yeah,
The
her face
darker
gets all
skin.
like messed up. He's like, oh my god, why didn't you get out of the way? Oh my god, So she's, mangled, and then the black guy accidentally gets set on fire. I forget I forget how he gets set on fire, but he accidentally gets set on fire, and I think it was Chad. He like threw something at him, or he threw something at Dale, and Dale ducked, and it hit Chad, and he got set on fire. And then the stupid blonde chick throws moonshine at him, so now he's really on fire.